Hi, this is Tom Zimmerman from the EMDR podcast. This episode is one of a series that I'm doing about the difficulties of resourcing, and this episode specifically focuses on clients who really struggle to visualize. So, in general, the more complex the trauma, the more likely clients are going to have problems with resourcing generally. And if we think about resourcing, not just the standard Shapiro resources, but rather resources that may be needed for the EMDR journey. So again, the difficult stuff has to connect to right now existing adaptive information. In an EMDR, that's super, super important. That is your pathway of healing. And Dr. Shapiro is pretty clear. If there's not the needed adaptive information there, there's nothing about the 8-phase protocol that's going to automatically create it. So when clients don't have the needed information, don't have the needed resources, sometimes that information that they may be missing may be incredibly, incredibly basic. And why might they be missing that information? They may be missing that information because the nervous system has been about trying to figure out how to survive this day. Other people, their non-traumatized peers may be out in the world, bumping against the world, trying to figure out who they are, what they're worth, how they deserve to be treated. When many of our clients are simply in survival mode, have been in survival mode, and haven't really developed, haven't had the opportunity, haven't in some ways had the privilege, to experiment, to approach life from a certain flexibility, and to approach life from a artistic perspective. And then we're going to talk a little bit about why that may be important, particularly related to visualization. One of the things consultees tell me quite a bit is that in some form or another, they imply, I haven't been able to do reprocessing with this client because they simply can't visualize. And visualization is an important component of many of the Shapiro resources, and that may simply be a reflection of Dr. Shapiro's visual orientation in resourcing. So significant trauma that shows up in both hypervigilance ways and in shutdown responses can really impair a client's ability to conjure or to make from scratch visual information abstractly. And this really does make sense. If the nervous system really does believe and is stuck in if the nervous system really does struggle to separate what has happened in the past from what's happening right here, the nervous system really is in a functional equivalent of a war zone. And what that means is that it is very, very hard to do abstract things when our nervous system detects real, right here, right now, and emergent danger. So another way to say that, it's really hard to be creative when we kind of hear bullets flying over our head. It's really hard to be creative and conjure a situation, because creativity, again, the other thing that can be really, really triggering about this, in a lot of ways, is that creativity is about the inside, right? Where is this stuff going to come from, if not from the inside? And if you're not sure what I mean, think about how difficult it might be to conjure a beach if you have a pervasively traumatized nervous system. How difficult of a task it may be to imagine waves, to imagine the sand, seeing the sand, sensory information of the sand. Imagine how difficult it may be to conjure the sun and birds and warmth and wind and sounds, right? And buildings and other people. So this can be a this can be a really complicated mental task for a nervous system that's saturated at points, and it may be fixated on issues connected with safety right here, right now. So it is often easier. I'm going to give you several options or several kind of places you may check. It is often easier to do visualization exercises if those visualizations somehow connect with somatic memory. So in the podcast that I'm going to reference below, I talk about, clients that struggle noticing, right? So noticing is another of these things, and you can use bridge breaths. You can imagine the out breath as a kind of colored smoke. That's a visualization exercise. And people who've smoked, right, have thousands and thousands of kind of somatic memories that they can draw from of smoke coming out of their mouths, and all they need to do is make that, smoke a color. Or when we do hand breathing, we externalize breathing. So I'll put the link below in the comments below, and you can check that out, because that is a lot of these things that I do are bridges, right? So colored smoke breathing, hand breathing is a bridge breath, and it can let you notice things in an externalized way. One of the things that's often really triggering about this that relates to the inside is the performance anxiety that comes with resourcing. Anytime we ask a client to imagine something, the client also knows that we're about to get information about what they're getting. What are they feeling? What is this doing for you? So we're not just imagining, we're not just asking them to imagine the scene. They know and will have some performance anxiety related to what they need to be feeling or what they should be feeling. And those processes, that performance anxiety process, can also really knock offline or make it really, really hard for us to imagine and visualize in any kind of really complex way. And remember, like I talk about with the bridge breaths and dipping your toe in, anything connected with the inside can be triggering. The inside is not peaceful. The inside is not calm. The inside is where everything bad happened. So one of the simple things we can do, suppose we're working with calm scene, if the client's having a really hard time imagining a calm scene, you can have them view a scene on YouTube. You can have them, that can be homework. They can go home and they can check out a scene on YouTube. And these are some of the things that they might find. I have this in my my library of images and videos that I have licensed just for this. So I'm going to make these available on forblinks.com, forblinks.com soon, and you're free to use them and reference them. So these are just some examples, depending on the kinds of things that clients may be interested in. So some of these are maybe calm scenes that involve pets. Some of these may be calm scenes that involve waterfalls. Some of these may be calm scenes that involve just things that are pretty commonly relaxing for many people. And in doing this, we are outsourcing the visualization part to a video, and now the client only needs to attune to it. They only need to comment on their response to that video. And again, if they really struggle with the videos you've selected, send them home, find something on YouTube. They can find their favorite whatever, can find a scene from their favorite comedy. They can find they can find a pet, a scene from a pet that they, a pet video that they find funny or relaxing or humorous. And then we can use that. We can use that as a bridge calm scene. And we can even slow tap that in, right? That video. And that video can become one of the client's resources that can be used in session and between session. Related to other resources that that we really do rely in some ways on visualization. Container is one, and container really is um, a core skill that I want all of my clients to have. If if they are struggling, imagining a container, we can always show them one, right? We can always have them attuned to an object that we have in the room, right? So this is a little safe, right? A little bitty safe. And again, they can notice that, right? If we're in the same room, I can give them this, right? We can talk about how it locks. They can, with their own hand, develop some sensory memory related to this object. And this can be a safe for them, right? They can open it up, they can put it in. And again, I am very, very fond of testing containers using innocuous objects first. We're going to test this using an object that's not actual trauma. And we're going to make sure that it can go in. We're going to make sure that that container can go over here. And it is okay there. And we're going to look at that container that we just put that piece of paper in. We're going to ask the client, does it feel like that piece of paper is in there? If the client isn't sure, you know what we can do? We can open it up. We can check and see, right? So again, we're attuning to, rather than the qualities of the object that are in imagination, we can attune to an actual object. If you don't have that, you can always use an actual box, right? An actual file box, right? That we can put something in, right? The client can have this in his hand. He can actually see it go in. You can see the lid go on. Right over here, we can just put it on the floor where we can see. And does it feel like that piece of paper we just put in there is in there? If the client isn't sure, we can check. Okay, so these are some ways, and there are many, many, many others, that when clients really do struggle to visualize, we can do a bridge to that. And one of the things you can do is you can just make that visualization explicit. You outsource the having to conjure it to an actual object or an actual video. And that can open the door for the client to have a tentative resource that we can then leverage. And it will let us move on. And with these resources, I want these resources to work not just in session. I want these to work between session. So once a client has an object, they obviously from a creative arts point of view, you can always build a container. Clients can bring in a container from home that they carry around with them, or they can bring into your office. They can leave it in your office. They can take it with you. So I'm hoping, if nothing else, you get the very, very strong sense that just because a client struggles with visualization, that is likely to be a trauma symptom. And that does not mean they can't do EMDR. That does not mean they can't do flash approaches. That does not mean they can't do, anything that anyone else with trauma has. What it means is that we need to help them. We need to help them by helping to make these resources a little bit more explicit, a little bit more concrete. And there are thousands and thousands and thousands of ways to do that. So the more complex the trauma, the more likely you're going to need to be creative in your helping the client meet these core tasks of resourcing. And again, the whole point of resourcing is to make sure that we have everything needed for the journey. And whatever the client does not have, we can borrow. And whatever the client cannot conjure, whatever the client cannot, construct from imagination, we can construct from objects in the world, and simply copying objects in the world as needed. So I hope this gives you a few good ideas. I hope this gives you some hope in working with people who are simply going to struggle with visualization, are going to struggle with noticing, are going to struggle with everything connected with the inside, and are going to struggle with slowing down and attuning to things that may be really, really important in helping them prepare for this journey. So thanks a lot. Thank you for the good work that you do in the world, and let's be in touch. Thank you.